Okay, let's dive right in. We're talking about something you'd think was settled centuries ago, right? But nope, we're exploring the modern resurgence of the flat Earth theory. This belief that our world isn't a globe, but a flat disk.
And that's the real head-scratcher, isn't it? I mean, we've got GPS on our phones, we've seen photos from space, we can fly around the planet. So, why? Why is this idea actually gaining ground now? That's the mystery we're going to unpack.
And get this, it's not just a tiny fringe group. A YouGov poll from 2018 found something pretty wild. Only 2/3 of millennials said they firmly believe the Earth is round. That leaves a whole third of them who were kind of like, I'm not so sure. A third! That's a lot of doubt, and it tells you something really interesting is going on.
Okay, so before we can get into the why, we have to understand the what. What does the world actually look like according to this theory? Let's break down the basic model.
So in this model, picture the Earth as a giant disk. The North Pole is smack dab in the center, and Antarctica, well, it's not a continent at the bottom of the world. Instead, it's this huge 150-foot-high wall of ice that goes all the way around the edge, holding in all the oceans. And, if that layout rings a bell, it should. It looks a lot like the United Nations flag.
So where did this all start? You might assume it's some ancient leftover belief, right? But actually, no. The modern version of this idea is surprisingly, recent. It really kicks off in 19th century England.
The story really begins with this guy, Samuel Robotham. Back in 1838, he goes to the super long, straight stretch of river to run an experiment. He writes a book about his findings, but the whole thing really explodes into the public consciousness because of a big, splashy bet between one of his followers and the famous scientist Alfred Russel Wallace. Suddenly, everyone was talking about it.
Robotham's whole point was pretty straightforward. He said, look, I could see a flag on a boat 6 miles away. If the Earth was curved, it should be hidden below the horizon. But Wallace came back and showed that, it's a bit more complicated. Light doesn't always travel in a perfectly straight line, especially over water. It bends. And when you factor in that light refraction, the curve of the Earth is right there, exactly where it's supposed to be.
All right, so from that one idea, this thing has grown into a complete alternate reality. And to make it all work, you have to throw out some of the biggest rules in the physics playbook. Let's dig into the core claims. First up on the chopping block, gravity. Yeah, gravity as we know it is out. In this model, that feeling of being pulled down isn't a force at all. Instead, the entire disk of the Earth is constantly accelerating upwards forever. It's that constant push that makes you feel like you have weight.
Okay, so what about the sun and the moon? Well, they're not these giant, distant orbs. No, in this view, they're tiny, maybe just 32 miles across, and they're way closer. Think of them like two giant spotlights circling around a few thousand miles above our heads. And what's above those spotlights? Not space, definitely not the endless vacuum of space. Instead, there's a solid dome over the whole thing, a firmament. Seriously, if you've ever seen the movie The Truman Show, that's pretty much the concept. And if all of that is true, well, it leads to one massive conclusion. NASA and other space agencies must be lying. The argument is that they're faking everything, the photos from space, the moon landings, all of it, and that their real job is to guard that giant ice wall to make sure none of us ever find out the truth. So when you lay it all out side by side like this, it's pretty stark. You've got the established globe model on one side and the flat Earth model on the other. It's not just a different opinion. It's a completely different explanation for everything we see and feel every day. We're talking two totally separate realities.
Okay, so we've heard the claims. Now let's flip the script and look at the scientific evidence. What are the proofs for a globe? And the cool thing is, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to see it for yourself.
I mean, there are just so many simple ways we know. Gravity, for one. It pulls stuff together into a ball shape. You can literally see the curve from an airplane window. People have been sailing around the world for centuries. Time zones, they just wouldn't work otherwise. And you've seen it yourself. A ship sailing away disappears from the bottom up. And then, of course, there are just decades of incredible photos from space.
And here's a fun little detail. Just to be super precise, the Earth isn't a perfect sphere, like a cue ball. Because it's spinning, it bulges out a tiny bit at the equator. The fancy scientific name for it is an oblate spheroid. So it's kind of like a slightly squished ball. And this is where we get to the heart of it, the really fascinating part. If the evidence for a globe is all around us, why do people choose to believe this? Well, the answer isn't really about physics. It's about psychology.
Researchers say it boils down to a few key things. It often starts with a deep mistrust of authority, the government, scientists, you name it. This makes conspiracy theories feel really appealing, like you're in on a secret nobody else knows. Then social media echo chambers just reinforce that belief over and over. And finally, and this is huge, you find a powerful sense of community and belonging.
And that sense of community is so powerful. This quote here just nails it. It shows that when believing in this costs you friends and family, the community of other believers becomes your whole world. It's a group of people who get you, who don't think you're crazy. And once you have that, it's incredibly hard to let go.
So at the end of the day, this whole thing is way bigger than just the shape of our planet. It's really a story about trust, about community, and about how we decide what's real. And that leaves us all with a much bigger question, one that's more relevant now than ever. In an age where we're drowning in information, how do any of us decide what's true?